Stop waiting for clarity. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for everything to make sense. You are trapped in your head, thinking, analyzing, hesitating. But your life doesn't change when you think more. It changes when you move. This audiobook is about one truth: action kills anxiety. Motion destroys doubt. You don't need to feel ready. You need to move anyway. Because once you start, momentum becomes your greatest weapon. Chapter 1. The paralysis of thinking too much. You think you're being smart. You think you're being careful. You think that by analyzing every possible outcome, you'll finally make the perfect move. But let me tell you the truth. Overthinking is not intelligence, that it's fear disguised as logic. It's fear pretending to protect you. And while you're busy running scenarios in your head, life is moving without you. You sit there, waiting for certainty. You tell yourself you'll act when you feel ready. But readiness never comes, because your brain will always find one more reason to wait, one more reason to think, one more reason to doubt. That's how overthinking wins. It paralyzes you. It convinces you that stillness equals safety, but safety is an illusion. The longer you wait, the smaller your world becomes. You don't solve problems by thinking more. You solve them by doing more. Say it again. You don't solve problems by thinking more. You solve them by doing more. Because clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. You figure things out by stepping into them, not by sitting on the sidelines. Think about it. Every great thing you've ever done in your life came after you moved. Not before. Not after the perfect plan. Not after endless. Research.it came when you took a breath, ignored the fear, and just started. That first step. That's where everything changes. Overthinking is your mind's way of staying in control. That it hates uncertainty. It hates discomfort. But the truth is, growth only happens in the unknown. If you're waiting until you feel comfortable before you move, you'll wait forever. Because comfort never comes before progress. It comes after it. That's the key. You earn peace by acting, not by waiting. Most people live in mental loops. Constant analysis, constant hesitation. They think they're preparing, but they're really procrastinating. They spend weeks thinking about what could go wrong instead of spending 1 hour doing something that could go right. They live in the land of what if, instead of acting on what now. And every what if pushes them further away from the life they want. You have a choice. You can stay trapped in your thoughts, spinning in circles, convincing yourself that someday you'll be ready. Or you can move. Even if it's messy, even if it's uncertain, even if you don't know where it'll lead. Because the only real failure is inaction. Movement always teaches. Stillness only suffocates. Here's the paradox. Overthinkers crave control, but by refusing to act, they lose all control. When you don't move, the world decides for you. Opportunities pass. People move on. Time keeps ticking. You're left behind, still thinking, still analyzing, still wondering what if. You're not in control. You're controlled by your hesitation. You need to start trusting movement more than thought. When you act, even if it's imperfect, you gain feedback. That feedback is gold. It tells you what works, what doesn't, what to change. That's how you grow. Through doing, not through overanalyzing. The disciplined mind understands this. Action is clarity. Motion is medicine. Let's break the cycle. The next time you catch yourself overthinking, stop and say out loud, I don't need to think more. I need to do more. Because that's the reset. That's how you take your power back from the noise in your head. Every time you act instead of overanalyze, you're retraining your brain to move forward. You're building a bias toward execution instead of hesitation. That's how disciplined people operate. They don't wait for perfect clarity. They create it. Let's be real. The reason you overthink is because you're afraid of mistakes. But mistakes are not the enemy. Stagnation is. You can recover from a wrong move. You can't recover from never moving. Every error teaches you something. Every step, even the wrong one, gets you closer to the right one. That's how mastery works, that it's not about getting everything right the first time, that it's about moving, learning, adjusting, and repeating. Discipline, not perfection. Action, not anxiety. Think about the people you admire, the ones who actually get things done. They don't know everything, that they're not fearless. They just act. They trust movement more than thought. They take small steps when others freeze. That's why they grow. That's why they succeed. Because they understand that motion builds momentum and momentum builds power. You want to stop feeling stuck? Then stop worshiping thought. Stop giving power to your fear. Stop letting your brain talk you out of your life. You don't need to know every step. You just need to take the next one. That's the key. Progress doesn't require a perfect plan, just consistent motion. Every time you move, you shrink fear. Every time you act, you weaken doubt. Every time you do, instead of think, you become more dangerous, more effective, more alive. That's what discipline does. It teaches your mind who's in charge. You, not your fear. You, not your hesitation. You, not your excuses. You have to make peace with uncertainty, because overthinking is your attempt to predict every outcome. But life doesn't work that way. You can't predict everything, and you don't need to. You just need to stay adaptable, stay consistent, and stay in motion. That's where strength is built, not in control, but in confidence. The confidence that no matter what happens, you'll handle it. The next time your brain starts spinning, pause, take a breath, and move. Send the message. Write the line. Make the call. Lift the weight. Don't wait to feel ready. Act through the resistance. That's the moment discipline is born. That's when you shift from thinker to doer, from frozen to free, from trapped to unstoppable. Remember this. You don't solve problems by thinking more. You solve them by doing more. Because the cure to overthinking is motion. The medicine for doubt is movement. And the path to peace isn't found in your mind. It's found in your steps. That you've spent enough time in your head. Now it's time to step into your life. Because the only way out of mental paralysis is forward. That you've learned to stop drowning in your thoughts. Now, let's talk about how action creates clarity. Chapter 2. Action is the antidote to fear. Fear doesn't disappear when you wait. It fades when you move. That's the truth most people never face. They wait for courage before acting, not realizing that courage is born from action itself. You don't get brave first and move later. You move first, then you become brave. Fear feeds on hesitation. Every second you delay, fear grows stronger roots in your mind. You feed it by standing still. You water it with your doubts. And you let it bloom every time you say, I'll start tomorrow. Let me tell you something. There is no perfect time. The right moment is a myth sold to people who want comfort instead of growth. The right time is the moment you decide. The second you take one small, ugly, imperfect step forward, fear loses power. That's the key. You don't beat fear by reasoning with it. You beat it by starving it, by refusing to feed it with overthinking and hesitation. You starve fear when you act. You crush it when you choose movement over waiting. You end it when you stop asking, what if, and start saying, let's see. Every successful person you admire, every athlete, every creator, every leader, they didn't start fearless. They started moving anyway. They acted before they felt ready. They faced uncertainty, discomfort, and judgment, but they kept moving. You think they were confident? No, they were committed. Commitment is what builds confidence. Action is what creates momentum. Momentum is what kills fear. You have a choice. Keep waiting for the perfect plan, or start walking with an imperfect one. Keep studying, or start building. keep doubting, or start doing. Because here's what you'll realize. The moment you act, fear gets confused. It can't follow movement. It only survives in stillness, in delay, in the quiet corners of your maybe someday. The second you move, your brain stops spinning stories. It focuses on reality. You stop imagining what might go wrong and start dealing with what is. Action replaces anxiety with clarity. You trade fear for focus. Here's the part most people never get. You don't need motivation to act. You need movement to find motivation. Waiting to feel ready is just another form of fear. That's the lie. That you'll suddenly wake up one day with enough courage, energy, and confidence to begin. No, that moment never comes. You earn readiness by taking steps before you feel prepared. That's the formula. 1. Move first. Point 2. Feel scared. Point 3. Keep moving. Point 4. Realize fear can't touch you anymore. You don't get stronger by planning. You get stronger by pushing through. Every repetition of action builds calluses over your fear. Every step forward is proof. I can handle this. That's why most people stay trapped. They think they need to understand fear. You don't need to understand it. You need to outwork it. Fear hates movement. The it dies in motion. Let's make this real. That you're scared to start a project. Start it badly. That you're afraid to talk to someone. Say hello anyway. That you're worried you'll fail. Fail small, fast, and forward. Every action, even a messy one, builds proof that you're capable. Every time you move, your brain learns a new truth. I can handle uncertainty. The more you act, the less you care about being perfect. The more you move, the quieter fear becomes. Action shrinks fear down to its true size. A feeling, not a fact. You have a choice. Keep waiting for fear to go away, or start walking with it beside you. Because fear can't lead the way unless you let it. Most people let fear sit in the driver's seat. They let it steer their lives toward regret. But not you. Not anymore. You take the wheel back with movement. You don't need to feel strong to act strong. You act strong, and the strength follows. That's how confidence is built. Not by thinking about what might happen, but by doing something while it's happening. You build mental toughness by acting in chaos. You build resilience by choosing motion when your mind screams, wait. You build discipline by moving even when fear whispers, not yet. That's the key. Remember this. Fear is not the enemy. Inaction is. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. That it's a test asking, do you move anyway? And when you do, when you move through it, fear becomes fuel. Every action turns anxiety into energy. Every decision transforms doubt into data. Every step creates the next one. That you don't need to see the whole path. You just need to move your feet. That's how you win. That's how you build momentum. That's how you stop being trapped in your head and start living in motion. You don't need a map. You need direction. You don't need courage. You need consistency. You don't need permission. You need progress. You can think about change forever, or you can start changing today. You don't solve fear by waiting for it to leave. You solve fear by refusing to stay still. Remember this line. Burn it into your mind. Action is the antidote to fear. Say it again. Let it echo, because that's the truth you'll live by now. You mastered your mind's noise. Now it's time to master your habits. Chapter 3. Discipline over doubt. Doubt whispers. Discipline decides. You will never eliminate doubt completely, but you can outrun it, outwork it, and outlast it. That's the difference between those who move forward and those who stay stuck. The ones who win don't wait for certainty. They move because their discipline tells them to. You can't think your way through doubt. You act your way through it. You replace hesitation with structure. You replace what if with what now. That's the key. Doubt lives in emotion. Discipline lives in decision. And when decision becomes your compass, doubt loses its grip. Let's make something clear. Doubt isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're human. Everyone doubts. Everyone questions themselves. The difference is how long you listen to that voice. Discipline is what cuts through the noise. Discipline says, I hear you, but we move anyway. When you build your life on feelings, you collapse every time the weather changes. When you build your life on discipline, you move through storms with steady steps. That's what the great ones understand. The soldiers, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the survivors. They don't wake up every day with confidence. They wake up with a system. And that system saves them when emotion betrays them. You have to decide which one you'll serve, your feelings or your framework, because you can't serve both. Here's the brutal truth. You will doubt yourself the most right before a breakthrough. You will question everything when the results take longer than expected. You will want to quit when nobody's watching, when progress feels invisible. That's when discipline speaks louder than doubt. Discipline says, keep showing up, even when it's boring, even when it's slow, even when your mind says, this isn't working. That's the price of greatness. Repetition without recognition. Doing the right thing long enough until the results finally catch up. Most people quit because they think the absence of reward means the absence of progress. Wrong. The grind is the progress. Discipline builds the foundation long before success decorates it. You want to kill doubt? Build proof. Every day you follow your plan, you collect evidence that you can trust yourself. Every time you do what you said you would, even when you don't feel like it, you reinforce your own credibility. And when you trust yourself, doubt becomes powerless. That's how discipline destroys doubt. Not through motivation, but through evidence. You say, I don't feel like it. Discipline says, we do it anyway. You say, I'm not sure. Discipline says, we'll find out. You say, I'm tired. Discipline says, we finish. That's the conversation happening inside winners. You don't need to erase doubt. You need to stop obeying it. Doubt will always be there, whispering, questioning, testing you. But it's not a command. It's a challenge. Your job is to move forward anyway. When you stick to the plan, when you train when no one's watching, when you follow your routine instead of your mood, you turn discipline into identity that it's no longer, I'm trying to be disciplined. It becomes, I am disciplined. And that shift changes everything. Because once discipline becomes who you are, you no longer need to negotiate with your emotions. You just move. Here's what you need to understand. Discipline doesn't mean punishment. It means precision. It means consistency. It means doing the hard thing because it's right, not because it feels good. Every time you choose discipline over doubt, you're sharpening your mind like a blade. Every decision to act without overthinking strengthens the muscle of control. Every day you follow through builds internal power, the kind that doesn't depend on applause or validation. You become calm under pressure. You become steady in chaos. You become unstoppable. Discipline is freedom. That's not a slogan. It's a fact. When you live without discipline, you're at the mercy of your emotions. You wake up hoping to feel good before you act. You drift through moods, you waste time, and you drown in doubt. But when you live with discipline, you control your direction. You wake up knowing exactly what needs to be done. You remove the noise of should I and replace it with I will. That's real peace. Knowing that no matter how you feel, you'll still execute. And over time, that peace becomes confidence because you've built trust in your own consistency. And that's the secret every strong mind learns. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to stay reliable. Doubt says, maybe one day. Discipline says, today. Doubt says, what if it doesn't work? Discipline says, I'll make it work. Doubt says, it's too late. Discipline says, it's never too late to start. The power is always in the choice, and the choice belongs to you. You can either live ruled by hesitation or led by structure. You can let doubt define your limits or let discipline define your legacy. That's your decision. That's your moment. That's the battle. And you're winning it every time you move forward despite the noise. So remember this. You don't destroy doubt by waiting for confidence. You destroy it by doing what must be done, consistently, quietly, and relentlessly. When you stop asking, "Can I?" and start saying, "I will," you rise above fear. When you stop chasing comfort and start chasing growth, you evolve. When you choose discipline over doubt, you choose control over chaos. That's how you build an unshakable mind. That's how you become your own proof. That's how you turn action into identity that you've learned to move despite fear. Now it's time to learn how to protect that focus from everything that wants to break it. Chapter 4. Guard your energy like your life depends on it. Energy is your currency. Spend it foolishly, and you'll live broke. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Guard it, and you'll become unstoppable. You don't lose focus because you're weak. You lose focus because you're leaking energy. Every unnecessary argument, every pointless scroll, every thought about people who don't think about you, they drain you. Quietly, consistently, completely. That's the truth nobody wants to admit. Your biggest distractions aren't accidents. They're habits, and habits either build you or break you. The world is designed to steal your attention. Every notification, every feed, every headline. It's all noise, engineered to hijack your mind. And when your attention is stolen, your energy follows. That's why you feel tired all the time. Not because you work too hard, but because you focused on too many useless things. You can't give your best to your goals if you keep giving your energy to gossip, drama, and comparison. You can't build a sharp mind in a chaotic environment. Guarding your energy isn't selfish. It's survival. You can't pour into your mission if you're constantly bleeding attention into the world's distractions. That's the key. Start thinking like a warrior, not a wanderer. That a warrior protects his resources, his time, his energy, his focus. The wanderer gives them to anyone who asks. You have to start saying no to no to unnecessary conversations, no to energy draining people, no to pointless scrolling. Because every yes to distraction is a no to discipline. And that's the equation most people never understand. You don't need more hours. You need fewer leaks. Every message you reply to, every meaningless debate you entertain, every bit of negativity you let in, it's a withdrawal from your energy account. And guess what? You have a daily limit. You can't spend half your day reacting to chaos and still expect calm when it's time to execute. You can't focus on your purpose when you're too busy protecting your ego. You can't stay consistent if you're constantly giving your peace to people who thrive on conflict. That's why strong people stay quiet. That's why they move in silence. Because every argument avoided is energy saved. Let's make this practical. Audit your energy. Ask yourself, who drains me? What drains me? Where? Do I feel most focused? If something or someone consistently leaves you feeling anxious, tired, or distracted, cut it off. But that's not cold. That's clarity. Stop confusing kindness with access. You can wish people well and still protect your peace. You can love people and still limit your exposure to them. Boundaries don't make you rude. They make you strong. That's the discipline of focus. Cutting off what doesn't serve you so you can serve what matters. Energy is more than motivation. It's attention, emotion, and momentum combined. Lose control of one, and the others follow. That if your thoughts are scattered, your emotions get unstable. That if your emotions get unstable, your actions become inconsistent. And when your actions fall apart, so does your confidence. See the pattern? Everything starts with energy, how you direct it, how you protect it, how you spend it.So ask yourself every morning, where will my energy go today? If you don't decide, the world will decide for you. Stop letting everyone have access to your mind. Stop letting noise live rent-free in your head. Not everyone deserves your attention. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every thought deserves to stay. Silence is power. Focus is protection. Calm is control. When you learn to stay calm while others panic, you gain leverage. When you stay focused while others gossip, you gain ground. When you guard your energy, you win battles others don't even see. That's how the disciplined separate themselves from the drained. You must understand this. Every day you are training your energy. Every distraction tolerated makes you weaker. Every focus session completed makes you stronger. That's why consistency feels so powerful, because it's energy directed with purpose. When you stop chasing every impulse and start mastering your attention, you feel it. Your mind gets quieter, your goals get sharper, your progress accelerates. Because now your energy has direction, and directed energy is unstoppable. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer leaks. You don't need more time. You need more focus. You don't need more people. You need more peace. Energy is finite, so choose where it flows. That if it's not building you, it's breaking you. That if it's not bringing peace, it's stealing power. Guard it, defend it, protect it like it's oxygen, because it is. Without it, everything else falls apart. So from this point forward, make this your rule. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. You don't need to explain your boundaries. You just need to live them. The world doesn't need access to you. Your mission does. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Now that you've learned to guard your inner strength, it's time to talk about how to transform that energy into momentum. Chapter 5. Small Steps. Ruthless Consistency. Everyone wants big change. Everyone wants transformation. But nobody wants to do the small, boring, invisible things every single day. That's why most people fail. Not because they lack potential, but because they can't stay consistent when it stops being exciting. Consistency is what separates the talkers from the doers. That it's the quiet, unglamorous grind that no one applauds. That it's doing the thing when you don't feel like it. That's the key. You don't need massive effort once. You need small effort every day, because repetition beats intensity. Always. Let's make this clear. Discipline is not about doing everything. That it's about doing one thing long enough to see results. Most people destroy their momentum by chasing variety. They start, stop, restart, and repeat. Always in motion, but never in progress. You can't build anything that way. Success is built like a wall, one brick at a time. You don't build the wall in a day. You lay a brick every day. And one day, you look up and realize the wall is done. That's the power of consistency. You have to stop glorifying bursts of effort. Point one intense week won't change your life. Point one perfect day won't rewrite your story. What changes your life is showing up when you'd rather disappear. Every day you show up, you train your brain to trust you. That's how confidence is built, not through achievement, but through repetition. Consistency rewires your identity. When you keep promises to yourself, your brain starts believing you. And when it believes you, discipline becomes automatic. You don't need to feel inspired. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to show up and move. Action first. Emotion later. That's the rule. Because once you start moving, momentum takes over. And momentum is the silent force that destroys doubt. You can't think your way into confidence. You have to act your way into it. That's why small steps matter. Because small steps lead to trust, and trust leads to power. Stop underestimating the compound effect of daily effort. Reading 10 pages a day may not feel like much. Working out for 20 minutes may not feel like progress. but stack those actions over 365 days. And you'll be unrecognizable that it's not about doing more, that it's about doing what matters. Without skipping, that's the quiet secret of greatness. Consistency isn't loud. It's invisible. While everyone else is looking for motivation, you're building systems. Let's talk about systems. Motivation fails. Systems don't. A system is a routine that removes the need to decide, that it's a rule you follow whether you feel good or not. It's what keeps you steady when emotion tries to pull you off track. For example, I write for 1 hour every morning before checking my phone. I go to the gym every weekday at 7 a.m., no matter what. That's how disciplined people live, not emotionally, but structurally. They build systems that protect their goals from their moods. Because moods are temporary, but systems are eternal. You have to accept this truth. Your future is hidden in your daily routine, not in your dreams, not in your plans. In your routine. But that's why you can't skip the small stuff, because the small stuff is the structure. You can't rise above the level of your habits. You can visualize success all day long, but if you can't master your mornings, you'll never own your life. Consistency builds credibility, and credibility creates power. That's the formula. Most people fail because they chase speed instead of rhythm. They sprint and burn out. They go all in for a week, then disappear for a month. They confuse energy with endurance. Stop sprinting, start pacing. Life is a marathon of effort, not an explosion of motivation. You win by staying in motion when others stop. You win by doing small things so relentlessly that they become identity. You don't need intensity. You need rhythm, because rhythm never runs out. When you focus on consistency, you eliminate perfectionism. You stop waiting for the perfect day, the perfect plan, the perfect feeling. You start moving, and you stay moving. That's how momentum builds. Every time you show up, you add one more drop to the bucket, and eventually, the bucket overflows. The people you admire, they're not superhuman, that they're just consistent when others aren't. They repeat what works until it's automatic. That's what mastery looks like. Boring repetition executed beautifully. Here's your reminder. You don't need a revolution. You need repetition. You don't need more passion. You need more patience. The person who wins isn't the one who moves fastest, it's the one who refuses to stop at SO. Keep showing up. Keep moving. Keep stacking days. Because small steps, done ruthlessly and repeatedly, create unstoppable transformation. That's how discipline wins. Not in one dramatic moment, but in thousands of quiet ones that you've learned to be consistent. Now it's time to learn how to stay calm in chaos. Chapter 6. Unmasking the Ego. The greatest illusion for most of human history. People have believed they are their thoughts, the endless inner voice narrating, judging, worrying, planning. This voice calls itself me. Yet the truth is far deeper. You are not the voice, but the one who hears it. You are not the storm of thoughts, but the vast sky that holds it. The ego is a master of disguise. It hides behind every identity you cling to, your name, profession, nationality, even your spiritual progress. It whispers, I am the one who achieved this. I am the one who knows more. The moment you identify with that voice, you fall back into illusion. The ego thrives on separation, me versus you, better versus worse, right versus wrong. But look closely, and you'll see something incredible. The ego has no real substance. It exists only as a collection of memories and stories repeating themselves. It cannot survive the light of awareness. When you watch your thoughts without judgment, when you observe the ego's games as if watching a character in a movie, you begin to disarm it. Awareness itself is the undoing of the ego. True freedom begins when you no longer take the mind's voice personally. You can still use your mind to think, plan, create, but it no longer uses you. This is where peace begins to bloom naturally. You realize that beneath all roles and stories, there is a boundless stillness that has never been touched by success or failure, praise or blame. That stillness is your true essence. When you live from that space, life stops being a battlefield of shoulds and musts. You start to see others not as rivals or reflections of your insecurities, but as fellow travelers, each wrapped in their own illusion of self. Compassion replaces judgment. Love replaces fear. Unmasking the ego is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong unfolding. Every situation, every challenge, every relationship becomes a mirror that reveals where the ego still hides. Each moment of awareness is a small death of the false self, and each death is a rebirth into presence.I in silence. Beyond the ego's voice, you discover something eternal. You were never the one struggling to awaken. You were always the awareness, watching, patient, untouched, waiting for yourself to notice. Chapter 7. The Dance of Surrender. Letting life lead. There comes a moment in every seeker's journey when effort begins to crumble. You've read, meditated, practiced, tried to control your thoughts, tried to be peaceful, and yet something inside still aches. This is the edge of surrender, the sacred threshold where the mind's power ends and grace begins. Surrender is not giving up. It's giving in, into the flow of life that has always been carrying you. The ego wants control. It wants to plan, predict, and protect. But the deeper truth is that you were never steering this ship. The tides of existence have been moving you all along, even through what you called mistakes. Every heartbreak, every detour, every loss. They were all part of life's choreography, leading you home.To surrender is to trust the intelligence behind existence. The same force that turns acorns into oak trees, that guides stars in their orbits, that breathes through you without asking permission. This intelligence knows the way better than your plans ever could. When you finally stop resisting, you fall into harmony with it.At first. Surrender feels like falling into emptiness. But soon you realize the emptiness is full, full of peace, full of presence, full of quiet wisdom. Life begins to move effortlessly, like a river flowing downhill. You act, but the action feels weightless. You speak, but words come through you, not from you. The I that struggled begins to dissolve into something vaster. The paradox is that surrender doesn't make you passive, it makes you alive. You still move, create, love, and strive, but from a place of alignment rather than resistance. You no longer chase outcomes. You respond to what is. You no longer demand certainty. You find beauty in the unknown. The great masters have always said, "Let go, and you will see." Let go of trying to fix life, and life will reveal its perfection. Let go of fighting time, and eternity will open before you.To surrender is to finally whisper, "I trust you," to the universe, and mean it. And in that trust, something miraculous happens. You realize that the one who was clinging so tightly was never in control. You were always being carried, always loved, always guided home. Chapter 8. The Stillness That Speaks. Listening beyond thought. Silence is not the absence of sound.It is the presence of truth. I in the world's constant noise. Most people have forgotten how to hear. Their minds are so loud, filled with commentary, judgment, fear, and anticipation, that the quiet voice of life cannot reach them. But beneath all that noise, beneath every restless thought, there is a stillness. And that stillness has been calling you all along, that you've felt it before, in moments between thoughts, in the pause after an exhale, in the hush before dawn. That is not emptiness. That is awareness itself, the silent watcher within you. When you begin to sit with silence, at first it feels uncomfortable. Your mind panics. It wants stimulation, movement, distraction. It tells you silence is boring, that you're wasting time. But this is only the mind defending its territory, because silence threatens its rule. In silence, you begin to see the mind for what it is, a servant that became a master. The more you listen, the more you realize that silence is not passive. It's alive. It teaches without words, heals without effort, and guides without argument. In silence, clarity arises naturally. You start to see the truth of things, not as concepts, but as direct knowing. The noise of the world loses its power because you no longer need it to feel alive. That's the key. You stop reacting. You stop feeding the endless loop of thoughts and emotions that keep you spinning. You start living from a deeper center, the unmoving point inside you that no chaos can touch. Stillness is strength, that it's the quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove itself, that it's the calm presence that listens more than it speaks, that it's the foundation of real wisdom, because only when the noise dies can truth be heard. You have a choice. You can keep running with the noise, chasing validation, chasing purpose, chasing peace. Or you can stop, sit down, and listen. Because when you truly listen, you'll discover something sacred. The silence you feared is not empty. It's full of everything you've been seeking. Peace was never lost. You were simply too loud to hear it. And when you finally let silence speak, it whispers one eternal truth. You are already home. Chapter 9. The Discipline of Inner Peace. Power in stillness. Peace is not found. It is built, brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment. You don't stumble into peace. You create it through discipline, through saying no to every impulse that tries to drag you into chaos, through refusing to let emotions dictate your direction. That's the truth most people never face. They think peace is something that happens when life calms down, when the noise fades, when others behave, when problems disappear. But peace doesn't come from calm circumstances. It comes from calm within you. You can be surrounded by noise and still be unmoved. You can be attacked, misunderstood, doubted, and still remain centered. That's not luck. That's inner training. Because real peace is not the absence of pressure. It's mastery under pressure. It's when you no longer flinch at every emotion, every opinion, every outcome. That it's when you can feel anger rise and still not act from it. That's power. That's control. You have a choice. Always. To feed the fire or sit in the smoke. To react or to remain still. To seek control over others or to master control within yourself. The world teaches you to chase. Chase money. Chase validation. Chase happiness. But peace is what remains when the chasing ends. It's what's left when the noise burns itself out. It's what you return to when you finally stop needing everything to go your way. Most people live like emotional slaves, yanked around by whatever feeling appears next. But you're not your feelings. You observe them. You choose how to respond. That's the discipline of inner peace. You don't deny what you feel. You witness it. You don't run from emotion. You let it move through without reaction. That's the key. Peace doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you're no longer led by what you feel. You act on principle, not impulse. You move from center, not chaos. Think about the strongest people you've ever met. Truly strong, not loud. They rarely speak first. They don't chase arguments or prove points. They respond slowly, with precision, because they know something most people don't. Emotional restraint is the highest form of strength. It takes no effort to lash out. It takes no courage to react. But it takes everything to stand still when your emotions demand war. That's what separates the wise from the reactive. That's what makes peace a weapon, not a weakness. You don't need to raise your voice to command attention. You don't need to fight everything that challenges you. Stillness intimidates chaos because chaos cannot touch what doesn't move. That's your advantage, that you've trained your mind to be still, that you've trained your emotions to obey reason, that you've stopped confusing calm with complacency. Because peace isn't passive, that it's active control. The hardest kind, that it's choosing not to swing back when ego demands revenge. It's walking away from noise that no longer deserves your energy, that it's breathing, thinking, and acting with precision while others burn out in reaction. Every day gives you practice. Every disagreement, every disappointment, every delay. Each one is a chance to build the muscle of calm, to say, I don't need to react. I choose peace. And the more you choose it, the stronger it gets. Soon, your peace becomes your armor. Your silence becomes your signal. Your stillness becomes your power. That's the discipline of inner peace. Unbreakable from the inside out. No one can give it to you. No one can take it away. That it's built by repetition, by restraint, by awareness. The weak chase chaos. The strong create calm. And you've been training for this all along. You mastered the art of stillness. Now it's time to take that mastery into motion, because the next step is not just staying calm. It's moving forward while calm. That you've learned to sit in silence. Now, let's talk about how to walk through the noise with total control. Chapter 10. Moving through chaos with clarity. Action without noise. You've learned how to be still. Now, you learn how to move with purpose, with power, with peace. Because stillness without movement is stagnation, and movement without clarity is chaos. The goal is balance. Motion rooted in control. That's how warriors move. That's how leaders rise. Most people move because they're afraid to stand still. They act from panic, not purpose. They chase activity to feel alive. But they're not progressing. They're just spinning. Noise disguised as momentum. But you move differently now. You don't chase noise. You don't act from anxiety. You execute from clarity. That's the difference between running aimlessly and advancing strategically. That's the difference between those who react to chaos and those who command through it. You've learned to quiet your emotions. Now, you quiet your environment, because clarity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters. That it's not about motion. It's about direction. That's the key. When everything around you feels urgent, pause. When everyone demands your attention, choose focus. When your mind screams for distraction, discipline it back to purpose. This is how clarity is forged. In the moments when you could scatter your energy but refuse to, you have a choice. Always to let chaos move you, or to move through it untouched. To be a product of noise, or a producer of order. You want to know who wins in chaos? It's not the fastest, it's not the loudest, it's the one who stays composed long enough to see clearly. Because in chaos, everyone is reacting. Few are thinking. That's your advantage. You wait. You observe. You strike once, with precision. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right thing. Not about speed. About control. Not about intensity. About direction. That you've already done the hardest part. That you've broken the addiction to overthinking. That you've conquered the reflex to react. Now, your mind is a weapon. Sharp, calm, and steadied. That's how clarity feels. That it's quiet. It's decisive. It's not emotional. You act because it's time, not because you feel like it. You move when it's necessary, not when you're scared. You don't need to announce your goals anymore. You don't need to prove your progress. Your results will speak for you. Because clarity removes the need for validation. You don't need to be seen. You need to execute. You don't need to talk. You need to move. Every action now has weight. Every step means something. Every decision cuts away the unnecessary. That's how disciplined movement looks: deliberate, silent, unstoppable. The truth is, chaos will never end. There will always be pressure, noise, and uncertainty. But now, you move through it like water. You adapt. You flow. You keep going. When others panic, you pause. When others freeze, you move. When others chase, you choose. That's mastery. That's clarity in motion. It's not that the storm stopped. It's that you learn to walk through rain without flinching. You don't run from noise anymore. You operate above it. You don't react to chaos. You build order within it. And that's the discipline that changes everything. You have clarity now. You know what you stand for. You know what you're building. And you know what to ignore. Don't lose that. Protect your peace. Guard your focus. Move like a ghost, silent, efficient, invisible until necessary. Because real power doesn't need attention.It, doesn't need noise.It, doesn't need permission.It, just moves relentlessly, decisively, with total clarity. That's you now. The person who doesn't wait for motivation, the one who acts when it's hard, the one who sees clearly when others are blind. That you've become unstoppable, not because you do more, but because you do what matters. Not because you're fearless, but because you move through fear. Not because you shout louder, but because you listen deeper. This is what all the discipline was for. This is why you trained your mind, silenced your emotions, and controlled your impulses. To arrive here. Clarity through chaos. Now, there's only one step left. Keep moving. No hesitation. No second guessing. No need for perfect conditions. Action is the cure. Discipline is the path. Clarity is your compass. And from this point forward, you don't think about it. You don't wait for it. You just move. You stop overthinking. You start moving, and you never stop again. Stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Stop drowning in thoughts that never lead to action. You've spent enough time planning your life. Now it's time to live it. Overthinking will always whisper, "What if I fail?" But discipline will always answer, "Then I'll try again." That's the voice you follow now. That's the truth you live by. You don't need perfect clarity to start. You don't need motivation to move. You don't need anyone's approval to act. You just need one decision: to do it now, because nothing changes until you move. Not your confidence, not your results, not your life. Movement is the cure. Discipline is the medicine. This is your reminder. The world rewards execution, not intention. It doesn't care what you could have done. It only sees what you did. Start moving. Even if it's small, even if it's messy, even if you're scared. You'll find clarity in motion, not in thought. You'll build confidence through action, not through waiting. This is your moment. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't wish for it. Move. Stop overthinking. Start moving, and never stop again.